Hi, my name is Ken Lasserson. I wrote the Microbiome Prescription website, the free citizen science initiative, and I've recently just added in a new section. Actually, it was there, but it's being reworked to try to make it more usable for health professionals and for individuals, as the case may be. Once you log into the site with your samples, you will see a KEGG compound there, and it has warning signs by. And why it has that is it is a big database, so it's going to be lots and lots of data coming back down. It may take a little while to load. If you're dealing with a mobile device, you may have problems seeing it all. But let's just go in and take a look at it. So when it will download, and then it will do it, and then it will eventually pop up with a search box. And search box is very critical. And what we have here is we have a particular compound that's produced. Some of the stuff you may already know, like butyrate, etc. For example, if I type the word butyrate, I end up with a whole bunch of things, all which are things that deals with the production of butyrate, more than just one thing. And we basically trying to find a particular one is a little bit more complicated, but in general, the purpose is to educate. On the right, you have a description of what it does, its possible impact, where your values are relative to other people, in this case 2 percentile, the actual count with the assumptions we are making. We are assuming that every bacteria is active. If it has a gene to produce or to consume, we're assuming that is active. That is a questionable thing. But since we have no way of determining if it is or isn't active, we simply go to run with the assumption. So some cases, the count is going to be negative. Other cases, it's going to be positive. And let's take a look at something which I looked at earlier today, Cybele. And Cybele pops up, and we have just 3 sections. And notice we have 1,510 different compounds involved. Most of the time when people talk about compounds being produced with microbiome, they may lucky get up to a dozen things like butyrate or hydrogen or methane or hydrogen sulfide. So what we have here is we have a description of it. All of these sections have the word Cybele in them. And we can go in and take a look at something like, okay, what is how high? It's okay, I have 83, or to sample has 83 for hydrogen. So if I click on the little chart, it will go over and show you the distribution of it. Now, you notice we have all the numbers being negative. And why is that? Because we don't have full information. We know only some of the bacteria that are there. There's other bacteria that could be producing hydrogen, etc. So we are making some assumptions in order to be able to process it. If you go over to somebody who's done a clinical study and say, oh, this bacteria does produce hydrogen, that is true only in the context of the Petri dish it was done in, which is different than the actual internal stomach. So there are challenges all around in determining what the rate is. But here you have it, and you see the information here. And down the bottom, you see a list of all the bacteria which we, from the Kyoto Encyclopedia of Genomics, we see are there. And as you see, there's more consumers than producers of it. And now, you may have a surplus of hydrogen coming off, as in Cybele, and the reason may be that a whole bunch of these things are inactive. They could consume hydrogen, but they're not. So the result is you're getting a false negative value. We don't know the details. All we know is that relative to other people, our calculation shows you having relatively high hydrogen consumption. And I see something else there, which I will hopefully fix. And okay, and now let's go back and take a look at the chart. So we can do things like Cybele and see what percentile ranking it is. You can go in and type in something like gut brain. Oops. and as you type, it will automatically filter out. And for example, dealing with gut brain, where 56 different chemicals are involved, and you can go in and take a look through it. That word will appear on the page somewhere. Gut brain. So here we can just simply highlight it and can see where it is. And we could say, okay, what about something else like, what else are we in? Let's take a look at the word cancer. So these are shifts seen with cancer. We have 61 entries, and we can go and just scroll down, and we can see how certain things are associated with cancer, and etc. So you can go through and take a look at them. If you are dealing with a cancer risk and these are low, you probably don't have to worry too much about that. You click that and you now have the high things. These are things which are very likely to be of potential concern, things you may want to try to reduce the risk of cancer, if you already have cancer, to facilitate the treatment of it. And again, it's there, and we can go on. A lot of things, you'll find many compounds associated with it. If you type something like Crohn's disease, what we end up doing is just 7. And so we have everything dealing with Crohn's disease here. And we have hydrogen sulfide is associated with it. We have butyric acid or butyrate. If you hover over it, you'll see the alternative names for it. For example, in this case, it's butyrate. The question is, when compounds have 5 or 6 different names, which names to use gets challenging. Generally, I use the names which KEGG uses, simply for standardization. Iron is there in terms of chronic inflammation. Again, all the information on the right is generic information, courtesy of ChatGPT, but it will give you some basic information of what you may need to do individual follow-up of. And for example, this particular one, persists anti-inflammatory one. So in this case, this particular one, you may want to increase. And how would you increase it? You click here, and you can see there. And now we have the consumers and the producers, which means you could go long list. I'm sorry about that. Simply the reality, and click and say, okay, I want to try to increase some of those, add it to a hand-picked taxa, get suggestions from the hand-picked taxa, which is not going to be covered here. And that's it. So now if you change to a different lab, like going over to the biome site, oops, it says there's nothing there because this particular, the bacteria for this particular compound isn't reported by biome site. Let's go over to biome site by itself. And let's take a flip to the bottom. We have 1400. So we have there. Now that's, if you take a look at Crohn's, we have 8. We have 1 more showing up. Again, which shows up depends on what species are reported and the accuracy of them. If we go over to SIBO, we still have just 2. The third one, which was, the person had none of the bacteria that produces the third chemical, which I think is methane, which is an interesting observation. If you go over to, let's try the word smell. Here we have the if you have smelly farts, voila. This is one, and if you take a look here, this is where you are in the smelly fart zone, and if you're up here, you definitely have it. And down the bottom, you have what produces the smelly fart and what consumes it. So again, you can go and say, okay, blah, 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 blah. I want to reduce this one, or I want to reduce that one, and see where you are. So so we have smelly fart producers there. Let's see if there's anything else by just typing in. Nope, that's the only one. We could just take a look at whatever we want. So let's suppose we want to look at, oops, histamine, M-I-N-E, H-I-S-T, histidine. Okay, histidine is what I would really want to do, which is a precursor to histamine. And there we have things are the precursor, and there are 11 bacteria there. You can always increase the amount shown on screen here. And now you can go down and take a look. And if you are having histamine issues, then this particular one is the one you may want to look at. And you can see where you're high, and notice that it's generally flat here, and then it curves up. We also give you a second way of looking at the data here, which sometimes will show where things are changing. In this particular case, we have a nice long flat line up to here, and now it's going up. So you are moving into a borderline, and voila, we now have it. Now, couple things I should point out is that sometimes, and in this case, you have the same thing on the right side as the left side, but you will have a few different ones showing up. And what this means is that this bacteria in certain times will be producer, other times it will be consumer. And that depends on the environment, whether or not it is active or inactive from the environment. And there's no way from microbiome sample to determine it. All we can do is do it, and going down the list and seeing where we don't have a matchup. For example, we have this one, which is a consumer, which is good. And this one is a producer, which we have a matchup. This one we don't have there, so we could do that and do that, or we can go over and take a look to see where on the curve. So here we have a very nice curve, but if we do the scale data, what you see is now we have a flat region on the scale data. It wasn't on the original one, and you can see that you are in the area where things are starting to accelerate. Generally, where it's very flat is where you want to be, and that flat area will vary from person to person. Okay, so to take it from the top, when you log in, you will see this KEGG compounds sitting there. When you click that, it will go and show you all the compounds, gives you description for all of them. Some may be blank at the moment. I'm still populating the data. There's about 3,000 different compounds involved. And you can now go in and take a look at what information we know about it, particularly things which are connected with whatever thing you have a concern about. And there, again, information is technical, but with so many things, you have to be technical to differentiate it. The purpose is a good thing. Now, if you go up, when you go across to here, and okay, let's just go over to let's do histidine. Here, go over to the chart. You notice this is hyperlinked. If you click the hyperlink, it will go over to the Kyoto Encyclopedia one, and you can now see we have pathways, which is how what becomes part of it. And there you have the joyous world of everything in terms of how histidine is doing. Again, very technical, makes it available for you the interpretation is something you're going to need to sweat through yourself. Okay, and I think that's about it. That just simply shows you getting the full panacea of compounds producing may be helpful. Again, generally there's too much information there to easily do. Often you may want to go in and type in a particular word like histamine, and there's only one. There is histamine, and it gives you information above it. Again, if you click through, actually you go over to there, and in this case we have a whole ton of different pathways having there. For example, the pathway for asthma, and providing data. Again, this last part is basically for those who are real into biological science. Okay, I think I'll leave it with that. It is a feature now which hopefully people will use. It is not ideal, again, because it's not perfect for every individual. What I have done here is at least got a little bit better explanation of what it is, and it's on the page. So if you type kimchi, you find exactly one reference to kimchi there. You can go and just do whatever. Everything is loaded. The search happens on the page, so it's fast, it's quick, and you can just go out and do it. For example, allergic reactions, if you want to put that word in. And I have 4 involved with allergic reactions: histamine, hydroquinone, and formaldehyde. You may not have been aware that the other compounds could be involved with a allergic reaction. Okay, so that's it. Explore. There are still some blanks in terms of the data, but those are being gradually filled every day as I upload the data.